the next chapter is now we're on to the prosecution side, right? And let's keep that open out there, keep that flowing, keep the information coming in. I want to make sure we get as much information for the investigators and specifically the prosecutor, specifically at this time moving forward. So with all your guys' help, we keep the information out there and keep the girl's name out there. And again, any information pertaining to anything with this case, obviously with the person arrested, but anything at all, please call that in. Please turn those tips in, because I want to make sure that that's how we support as a family, right, is keep it out there, asking for help, and you guys carry that message back out there for us, and we are so appreciative of that.
Hey guys, welcome back to True Crime with Shannon, where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Alright, I realize I'm a little bit behind on posting a bit about the presser, but I wanted to get the Velva stuff out yesterday, and since YouTube and all was saturated with Delphi, which I loved, because Abby and Libby deserve every bit of this justice, as well as their family right now. I wanted to make sure that the Velva case got out as well. So I'm doing my update tonight, and it gave me a chance to do some more research on our alleged BG, aka Richard Allen. So we're going to get into all that in this video, but before we get into that, I always feature a missing persons poster on the channel. So let me pull today's missing persons poster up. Today's missing person is going to be Lauren Isabell Guiterrez. She's 14 years old, 5'4", 150 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes. Lauren was last seen on Thursday, October 27th, 2022 at approximately 11 p.m. at her residence in the 1200 block of Harvey Road, College Station, Brazos County, Texas. It is possible that Lauren is with someone unrelated to her that could be placing her in an unsafe situation. If you have any information, please contact the College Station Police Department at 979-764-3600, or you can always call 911. Again, this is a missing 14-year-old who has been missing since last Thursday, which would have been October 27th. So if you are in this area in Texas in College Station, please do contact the authorities if you have any information on Lauren. So let me pull up the presser, and I'll just play some of the beginning here. Especially want to get through Doug Carter's portion for sure. So let me pull that up.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Jeremy Piers, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post. I'd like to thank you all for being here and thank the Delphi United Methodist Church for allowing us to use their facility. This morning, we're going to provide an update on the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce to you our speakers, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, the Carroll County Sheriff, Tobe Lesenby, and the Carroll County Prosecutor, Nick McClelland. I'd like to remind everyone that this continues to be an active and ongoing investigation. At the conclusion of this press conference, we are going to answer a limited amount of questions out of respect to the investigation and the process that will follow today. We will not discuss evidence that is related to this investigation. On behalf of the Delphi Double Homicide Task Force, thank you all for your continued support. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter.
Give me just a second here. Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day. And an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and you know I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi Chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail, and to so many others that I know I've missed. I really believe that Abby and Libby would be proud of you for standing strong, even in the face of immense pressure and perpetual criticism. Some of these individuals have postponed retirement, passed on promotional opportunity, have dedicated personal time away from their families, given up nights, weekends, and holidays, all while in the pursuit of accountability for Abby and Libby. I know that today's announcement will not diminish your resolve, and I hope you have found just a bit of peace in this most complicated world. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. Prosecutor Nick McClellan, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. It's about Abby and Libby, their families, and this community, this nation, and even our planet. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks that have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team that I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be.
Okay, I'm going to cut it off there, and I'm going to also timestamp this in the in the information of the video in case folks want to skip through here. But I wanted to make sure to put Doug Carter's statement out because to me, it's very important. And obviously, the sheriff as well as the prosecutor is important as well. But I'll include the link to this presser. It's in full from HLN. There was also another few sources that have it. But I completely agree with Doug Carter. And I have to tell you, I'll be completely honest. He has been frustrating me from the get-go. I feel like the best way to describe how I feel about Doug Carter is it's a love-hate relationship, and you want to trust him. Oh, we're almost there. We're getting there, and then and we're getting nothing. So, but when this happened on last week on Friday, and with the way he spoke on Monday at this presser, I have to say this is a great man, and I really believe he has always been in this for the girls and for justice for Abby and Libby, and that's all that matters. And the fact that they're not telling us stuff, you guys, as much as we all would like. I mean, heck, I would love to hear all the information right now. I want to know. I mean, we're all curious. We're all we all have those minds. We want to know everything, but like he said, this case is very, very, very important. It's not about finding that out right now. They have the alleged bridge guy. They have allegedly BG in custody. He's being charged with 2 counts of murder. And at this point, they need to make sure that all their T's are crossed and all their I's are their I's are dotted. And they need to make sure that there's no one else involved in this horrific crime. And that's why this tip line is going to remain open. They need to go back, like Carter has said, previously. They need to go back. They need to relook at things. And there's going to be folks that may remember something now at this point. Now that we know Richard Allen is the guy, they may remember something and go, oh man, so we need to make sure that everything is situated so that there's no question when he makes his appearance in that courtroom and he's got his lawyers or whatever, and we got, the state of Indiana against Richard Allen, there's no question that there's nothing that the state of Indiana and their task force and the entire team, that they did not do anything wrong in this case. They need to make sure that everything is taken care of so Richard Allen gets everything he deserves. So, and honestly, as much as we all want it, like I said, it's really the families of these 2 girls, and both Mike and Becky Patty has said they are right behind them. They want to make sure that everything is taken care of. They want to make sure they have all their suspects and anything that they need. So I say we need to listen to the family. Get behind the family and get behind LE on this one, guys. We need to make sure and let our curiosity hit that back burner for a while, and we're just going to have to sit and wait. Sometimes patience is hard, and I know I don't like to be patient. I don't like to wait either. It's like, but we need to make sure he pays for what he's done, and if anybody else is involved, if the Anthony shots count and the Kleins are involved, we need to make sure that gets taken care of. If there's somebody else that we don't even know is involved, we need to take care of that. So the bottom line is everything needs to be taken care of, and then let them unseal some of these documents. So let me go over some information that I was able to compile about the monster Richard Allen. All right, there is Richard Allen's new mugshot. He is obviously not in Carroll County, but he is nearby. He was arrested on October 26th. His first court appearance was last Friday, October 28th. He pled not guilty, which is not a surprise to anyone. He's currently got no bail. Again, we just stated, his arrest affidavit is temporarily sealed. And again, I think that we need to wait. There's supposedly going to be a community meeting in Delphi in about 30 days regarding if the community would like that unsealed. And I'm actually hoping that they don't unseal it until they're ready. And there seems to be a Rule 5 exception in Indiana, according to Law and Crime. Let me actually pull that up I was actually looking at it on my phone just a bit ago. Like I said, it's been a crazy week, y'all. Apparently, the Rule 5 of Indiana's rules of court contains several mechanisms for sealing or closing records. Most are mundane, usual, and self-explanatory. For instance, Social Security and bank account numbers, the names of child witnesses, and visual depictions of SA offenses are not publicly available. Materials connected to a mental health review of a defendant are also closed records, but the Delphi's murders case likely has not yet reached that stage. So they're stating that there's two broad exceptions to the standout to this rule, which would be Rule 5A5 and Rule 5B7. It states the first applies to the entire category of cases. Entire cases that exclusively pertain to investigative requests and process unrelated to a pending criminal proceeding, including but not limited to search warrants, subpoenas, and oral testimony, subpoenas, duces tecum for items, usually documents, and other investigative requests. The second applies to specific individual cases. That states records in a pending matter that pertain to permissible ex parte proceedings, post-charging investigatory requests for process, or requests for in-camera review, and that have been ordered confidential by the trial judge. Ex parte proceedings involve just one side in a case and usually occur in civil matters where one party asks for a preliminary injunction in an emergency situation. In-camera review occurs when a judge considers documents in private. Usually that applies to material which contains highly sensitive private matters, example being trade secrets or communications covered by attorney-client privilege. So those exceptions likely don't apply to the Delphi murders case. So let's see. When read in tandem, however, the rules allow courts to seal investigative requests and investigative requests for process, and Law and Crime is unable to find any Indiana case law to define precisely what those terms contemplate. It's possible another rule, Rule 5E1, could be at play. That rule allows records to be sealed when an arrest warrant is sought, but it also contains strict limits on how long the seal is allowed to remain in effect. It states court records that shall be temporarily excluded from public access. 1. The following shall be excluded from public access, and no notice of exclusion from public access is required. Entire criminal cases when a request to exclude case records from public access is filed contemporaneously with a request for an arrest warrant. When this request is made, the request and the court record will be rendered confidential until the court rules on the request. When probable cause to justify issuance of an arrest warrant has been established, the case record shall be publicly accessible unless the judge determines that the facts presented in the request for exclusion from public access support a reasonable belief that public disclosure will increase the risk of flight by the defendant, create an undue risk of harm to the community or a law enforcement officer, or jeopardize an ongoing criminal investigation. I believe that last part seems to apply here. An order excluding public access issued under this subsection shall expire immediately upon the arrest of the defendant. Okay, that's where we run into some issues here. Let's see. The known facts, let's see what it says here. The known facts in the Delphi murders case suggest many of these issues are at play, but the rule says that any seal contemplated under the section expires immediately when a defendant is arrested. Here, that has happened. One defendant is under arrest. The big question is whether another defendant is named on the same charging instruments who has not yet been arrested. In federal court, when this happens, a redacted or partial indictment is released immediately under the rules followed in the federal system. Assuming Indiana follows similar rules, it's unlikely another defendant is named on the same charging instruments as Richard Allen. Okay, and then they go on to review Rule 6 exceptions. They're stating this could be another one at play. Another rule, and likely the one being followed in the Allen case, allows the sealing of court records in extraordinary circumstances. The core of that rule reads as follows. Rule 6, excluding other court records from public access. A. In extraordinary circumstances, a court record that would otherwise be publicly accessible may be excluded from public access by a court having jurisdiction over the record. A verified written request to prohibit public access to a court record may be made by any person affected by the release of the court record. The request shall demonstrate that 1. The public interest will be substantially served by prohibiting access. 2. Access or dissemination of the court record will create significant risk of substantial harm to the requester or other persons or the general public. Or 3. A substantial prejudicial effect to an ongoing proceedings cannot be avoided without prohibiting public access. When this request is made, the request and the court record will be rendered confidential for a reasonable period of time until the court rules on the request. This rule contemplates that the request, a document or transcript of an oral argument may also be sealed along with the actual documents to which the request pertains. That seems to track with what's occurring in the Allen case. Again, the local clerk of court's office told Law and Crime by telephone that its office has literally nothing whatsoever on the public docket in the matter. So, again, it looks like they're stating that the applicable records remain sealed until a public hearing is held. Following that hearing, a judge may continue to keep the record sealed, but only after explaining the rationale for such a move. They have to put in, it says, a written order. Following a hearing, a court may grant a request to prohibit public access by a written order that 1. States the reasons for granting the request. 2. Finds the requester has demonstrated by clear and convincing evidence that any one or more of the requirements of Rule 6A have been satisfied. 3. Balances the public access interests served by this rule and the grounds demonstrated by the requester. And 4. Use the least restrictive means and duration when prohibiting access. And then, of course, it goes on to discuss the Indiana Access to Public Records Act. The act itself, which is a statute, not a court rule, contains specific provisions for criminal proceedings, but they facially apply to proceedings, example court hearings, and not actual documents. Criminal proceedings are presumptively open to attendance by the general public. The act states no court may order the exclusion of the general public from any criminal proceeding or part of a criminal proceeding, unless it first affords the parties and the general public a meaningful opportunity to be heard on the issue of any proposed exclusion. The remaining provisions are not dissimilar from Rule 6 proceedings and are presumptively open, but they can be closed so long as a hearing on said closure is held. So, and it goes on to explain more about the act. I am going to include this link in the information of the video. I find it completely interesting, and it does a really great explanation to it, regardless of those of us that are not huge experts on court law. And that's why another reason I love lawandcrime.com. But it's definitely interesting, and I think you guys should all check it out. But let's see here. Getting back to the suspect. He is allegedly refusing to cooperate with the investigation. Again, they did not say that at the presser. It's just been heard by multiple sources since Friday. He was 44 years old at the time of the murders. He's 50 years old now. He came forward as an initial witness in the early stages of the investigation. So apparently he came forward initially and talked to the police. So I'm curious what kind of interviews they have of him back then. Richard Allen, he's lived in Delphi since 2006, which is over 16 years. His home is less than 2 miles from the Monon High Bridge. Of note, he also lives near Abby Williams. Licensed pharmacy tech. So this is a correction to my previous video. He's not a pharmacist. He's a pharmacy tech since 2018. His pharmacy license does not expire until June 30th of 2024. This has been confirmed by the Patty family. He developed photos for the German family after the murder of the girls. So that is highly disturbing, and has been talked about that he have copies of any of these photos of Libby or Abby. I would not be surprised. No criminal history other than a few speeding tickets and a seatbelt violation. One in Jasper County in 2011 and another in Fulton County in 2005. In the 2005 case, records show Allen was going 74 in a 55 mile per hour zone. But the case was dismissed because Allen reached a pre-trial diversion agreement with the prosecutors. Allen has also had a seatbelt violation in Miami County back in 2003. So those are that's some information on him, and there's some further info here. On the Web Sleuths forum, there have been some key points discussed from Barbara McDonald. And of course, those of you that know the case are well aware of Barbara McDonald. If not, hit that Google machine, folks. So, again, this is from websleuths.com, their forum. And these are notes that were posted, and these are information from Barbara McDonald, and also from the neighbor 2 doors up from Richard Allen. Search on October 13th commenced just before noon. It went for 12 hours. Law enforcement arrived in unmarked vehicles and clothing. Law enforcement asked Rick and his wife to exit the house. Rick stood in the driveway for several hours and also sat in the car with his wife for several hours. At some point, the neighbors said the wife left. Plenty of law enforcement just stood around for the first part of the day. As it was getting dark, Chief Deputy Liggett arrived with a piece of paper in hand. He handed that paper to Rick. Immediately, a tow truck arrived to take Rick Allen's car away. At this point, some LE entered the house and some entered the backyard. They started searching the shed and taking pictures. Law enforcement were using a device like a metal detector or sonar around the shed and in the flower bed. They did not dig in the flower bed, but did dig up 2 tiny spots near the shed. LE started to bring items out of the house. Neighbors said one law enforcement officer came out with what? Let me get the second page here. Law enforcement started bringing items out of the house. Neighbors said one law enforcement officer came out with what appeared to be 2 large bundles of dark-colored cloth. Could not be sure it was clothes, only that it was definitely cloth. LE also brought out a Macy's shopping bag, a shoebox, and a small stack of books. Said they were thin books, not thick like encyclopedia books. Wonder what's in the shoebox and the Macy's bag. The neighbors said they were starting to get concerned and placed a call to Chief Deputy Liggett to ask what was going on, and all that Liggett told them was to stay vigilant, especially with your wife and daughters. This unsettled them. Yeah, that's kind of strange, isn't it? The day after the search, Rick went to work. That's odd, isn't it? Oh, well, he's been living in plain sight for 5.5 years. The neighbor states he saw him in the store, which of course was CVS, and felt that Rick was continuing as if nothing happened. Well, that seems to be the way he flows. Neighbors said they lived life as normal till October 26th when Rick was detained. From October 26th, the neighbors had not seen anyone at the house. They have not seen the wife since he was detained. House has remained empty since October 26th. The neighbors said they were a normal family. They did not have visitors, no parties, etc. They were very quiet. Neighbor did say he would see Rick arrive home from work, and Rick would regularly sit in the driveway in a lawn chair, having a few beers and maybe smoking some cigarettes. Neighbors said they had a little bit more interaction with the wife than they did with him. So they're saying, no, I think we can assume Ellie sat around for hours and made sure nothing was interfered with while they gained a warrant for the house and car. So the search itself did not go. So that was interesting information from Web Sleuths. So kudos and credit to them. Okay, so here is some comparisons from, these are from Facebook and Reddit and that sort of thing. So obviously we have the sketch, the original sketch on the top left, and there is Rick Allen on the right. That's a photo we've seen a lot since last Friday with him with the hat and the shades on top of his hat. And then on the bottom left, there's a picture of him shaven with basically no hair. And then the younger sketch would have been sketch number 2 on the bottom right. So, and there's also a comparison with the eyes and the nose. So let me pull that one up, because that one is definitely very intriguing. So this one, to me, man, this one is telling. So look at those eyes. He's got the slants and kind of the hooding in his eyes, and then that nose. So, while some people have said the sketches weren't really close, they were pretty close to me. I mean, there's some obvious, details there. I mean, they're definitely not completely off, that's for sure. This one definitely got me thinking. I'm like, wow, this one's a great comparison for sure. All right, and there was a bit of an interview with the Patties, so let me pull that one up. So after the presser, Mike and Becky Patty did a bit of some question and answers with the press. And I've seen some photos. There was a lot of press there. So here is some of the questions that they answered to the press after the news.
To kind of just reiterate really what Doug had alluded to as well, is I really do appreciate the media. Some of you I've come to know, or we've come to know over the last 5.5 years, and you've really been very helpful to us and keeping the names out there, keeping this case alive. Very appreciative of that. And while this is another chapter in this whole story that in our lives that we're going through right now, I want to make sure that we continue that, right? The next chapter is now we're onto the prosecution side, right? And let's keep that open out there, keep that flowing, keep the information coming in. I want to make sure we get as much information for the investigators and specifically the prosecutor, specifically at this time moving forward. So with all your guys' help, we keep the information out there and keep the girl's name out there. And again, any information pertaining to anything with this case, obviously with the person arrested, but anything at all, please call that in. Please turn those tips in, because I want to make sure that that's how we support as a family, right? Is keep it out there, asking for help, and you guys carry that message back out there for us, and we are so appreciative of that. But let's stay on top of that and keep pushing forward, because we got another hill to climb, and we're going to get to the top of it. We certainly are.
Mike, how do you feel that the suspect could be a neighbor, could be somebody you've known?
Well, Doug Carter said that early on, if you recall. He said he's hiding in plain sight, and that's the case. I don't know the gentleman personally at all, So I've probably seen him, but it's a small county, But definitely I don't know him.
What went through your heart, sir, when the last couple of weeks when you heard of a suspect and now an arrest? I mean, tell me, it's been so long. It's
somewhat bittersweet, knowing that while it allows us to move to the next turn or the next chapter, we still got a big mountain ahead of us, and we're going to stay after it. We haven't ever given up, and you guys haven't given up on us, and we're going to keep pushing all the way.
There's a lot of information that can't be shared, obviously, at this time. So why is it important to continue with the integrity of the investigation?
I want to make sure that we have everything we possibly need and more. I don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Becky, how are you doing? Do you have anything that you want to add? Sorry, I'm down here, but hi. What went through your heart when you heard? They told you on Friday, correct? Is that when they?
Well, we were called in on Wednesday and told that they had detained somebody, so we've had a couple more days to process this. I don't feel like I thought I would. I've always said that I would be screaming on the rooftops, but we're not. It's sad. While there's somebody that's been arrested, there is, our lives for 5.5 years have been in a search mode, and that's what we've done. And you get up and it's like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. So we're all just kind of feeling our way and figuring out what our purpose is now. What do we do next? How do we help? That's what we want to know, is how do we help now to make sure we have the right person, to make sure there's a conviction, to come to a total final resolution.
Do you
Ma'am, are
think
you all
there's somebody
fearful
else
that someone
involved?
else was involved in this that is still at large?
That's certainly a possibility, and that's why we're keeping it open out there, right? That's why the investigators answered that question as well, is the tip line remains open. So any information pertaining to this case, that's certainly, I want to get that to the investigative team and let them vet that out.
You're fearful that that person or those people might have had a role in the actual crime itself?
I don't know any of that information, what you're asking.
Do you think there's anybody in this town that knew about this and kept their mouth shut?
I don't know. That would be speculation, really. I mean,
Do you own your home in Florida but still rent your electricity? If you pay more than $50 a month in
what do you think?
It's a small town.
Sure is.
A lot of people who know each other.
Yeah, I'll save those words when I see him face to face.
Hey, Mike. Hey, sorry, we got here. I guess how's it feel to know that this guy, nationwide search, this guy was found down the street from where you guys have frequented and gone before?
Well, it's not an area that I really frequent, but, I mean, your point is, yeah, it's definitely, that's why we said never stop searching anywhere, because we didn't know where he was. And like I said, Doug Carter had made mention of that, is he could be living right amongst us, hiding in plain sight. And that's what came.
Tell me just how you're feeling.
Have anything to say to Richard Allen?
No, I'll save that for when I see him face to face.
Sir, what went through your heart and your mind when those charges were read?
It was a kind of bittersweet, you know, it's, I just know that there's another job, another hill for us to climb ahead of us, but we're up for the challenge. We're going to keep after it. We're not going to stop.
Why is it important to keep the tip line alive at this point?
Because I want every stone unturned, every bit of information that's out there pertaining to this case. I want the investigative team to have that information.
How confident are you the police have their man?
That's what the courts will decide, right? But I'm confident. I've always had confidence in the investigative team.
What keeps you hopeful?
Yes, I'm hopeful.
What keeps you hopeful?
The faith and the strength of our family, and the fact of I know how hard the investigative team has worked, and they're nonstop.
Who asked that?
Yeah.
Who asked that?
Lady back here.
Oh, I wanted to speak about your faith because I know it was important to you.
If it were your child, would you have an option not to be hopeful?
No, absolutely not.
That's why we're hopeful.
Of course.
You all,
Okay,
can I just ask you one question? Maybe you can put a rumor to rest or something. There's a report going around right now that this Mr. Allen actually processed some photos for the family at the CVS. Do you know if that's accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, and that he didn't charge the family when they came in to claim the photos?
That is correct.
Okay, and you know that firsthand. We are always careful to be accurate.
All right, one more question.
Do you think the media coverage of this has been fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys in the media have been certainly more than fair. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had our share of shots taken at us, and that's fine. And hopefully those people will now be able to reflect in the mirror and say, oh, you know, maybe that wasn't the case. So, you know, reservations and things like this is always the better case, right? This the better judgment. We all know that, and that's just how we are, right? I don't cast judgment on something until I know for sure, and
Okay, thank you, folks.
that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you. I really have great respect and love for the Patty family, and obviously to the Williams family, but Mike and Becky have always been, as well as Kelsey, have always been out there, and like he said, they've taken their set of folks that have attacked them, and I personally think that's horrific and horrible. And but honestly, now being a true crime creator here, I see it happen every day, and my feeling is to trust the family and honestly, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. That's how our system works. And as far as this case, I never, for 1 second, had any thoughts that anybody in this family, or the Patties, or the Germans and Williams, any of them, were involved in this horrific crime. And I know some have thought that they were. And like he said, they're going to have to look in the mirror at themselves on that one. So I just have a huge respect for them. And as far as I'm concerned on this case, it is the family first. We need to trust law enforcement, like I previously said, in the family. And if they believe that it's the right thing to keep a lot of this information quiet for a period of time until all the tips they need come in, all their investigation is taken care of, so that if there is someone or more than one other individual involved, that they're arrested, they're properly charged. Everyone should want justice for Abby and Libby. That's the bottom line. We want justice for these girls. And if Richard Allen is not the only person involved in this crime, the law enforcement needs to find that out. And as a community and media and YouTubers and social media, as much as we want to know, what's going on, I think that we need to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row and everything taken care of before they release any information that could put an investigation in jeopardy whatsoever. So that's definitely my thoughts on that. So I know some people disagree, and I know we're going to find out in about 30 days, probably a little bit under at this point, what the community of Delphi thinks about if they're going to try to get the affidavit unsealed, or if they're going to let, the task force and ISP and the prosecutor do what they believe is the right thing to do and release it when they feel it's the appropriate time. It's not going to be sealed forever. It's just we need to make sure everything is taken care of. And the prosecution and making sure that the person or persons involved pays, that's more important than our curiosity. So, all right, y'all. So that's going to be it for today. I know there's a lot more I could be covering on this, and I'll be doing more videos coming soon. I'm going to try to keep away from speculations and that sort of stuff, as much as we all have them. We all are, speculating and wondering what, did this happen? And, that's just the way we are. We're all curious folks, and we all want to know. And especially when we're true crime creators, we definitely want to know. And true crime, fans, we all want to know. All right, guys, have a great rest of the day. Hug your families if you haven't already today. And most of all, stay safe.